Café Anyway. Hey, it's Mike.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Welcome to this program called Mike's Daily Podcast. I would like to thank the guests. We don't have many guests that actually come on the show to talk
Mike's Daily Podcast
about interesting things. And the last podcast we had, a guy's name was Nick Roth, and he has a cool name, and I want to say the word moth because those are interesting things. They flitter around and they talk to you, and sometimes they sing, and they sing songs about moths and light and how they're attracted to the light.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
And they're scalded by the light. They burn up when they hit lights because they're too hot for them, poor guys. And they're made out of paper.
Mike's
Moths.
Daily
Or is it moths?
Podcast.
Where your tongue gets all sloppy. Moths.
Yeah.
Moths. Am I saying moths? Moths. Like I'm a 1930s radio record recorder on the radio. Hey, I was up early today, can you tell? And that's because there were things that needed to be done in the world of radio. And I helped out a couple people that like to get up early and be on the radio. Because apparently a lot of people listen to the radio early in the morning. I certainly know a lot of people like to drive their cars early in the morning. Maybe they don't like to drive them, but they were driving them. And oh, that was annoying. It took an hour. What usually takes 40 minutes tops took an hour to drive this morning. So, did you know that retail return fraud is rising? And not only are there a bunch of R's in that sentence I just said, but our own Gavin Newsom, who has no R's in his name, and I don't think I do either. Mike, Matt, nope. So he was at a Target buying something that cost over $300, and somebody was walking out and dropped something, and he's being nice because he's a Democrat. Democrats are nice. And he picked it up for them. Here you go. The guy's like, thanks, and he leaves with it.
And here's today's podcast picture.
And then his cashier, I call them cashiers. You may call them button-pressing intellects, but I call him a cashier. Hey, I've been a cashier. I will probably be a cashier again. They're called cashiers. So the cashier, not using a cash register, but some other computer device, says, that guy didn't pay for that. And Gavin Newsom's like, okay. Oh, the late great Basil the Boxer. He never went into a Target. I should have just walked right into a Target with him. I used to walk with him into, what was that store? Oh, O'Reilly's Auto Parts. Hey, Basil, let's go inside. I need to get some motor oil. I need to get a filter. I need to get a Fram filter. Oh, if I had it all over to do it over all, I would change my name to Fram. It's Fram Filter on your radio. And then Fram Filter would sue me. But the point is that Gavin Newsom, I don't know if he was trying to buy a Fram Filter. I think they cost, I don't think they cost anything more than $20. So something he was buying was over $300. And he basically helped somebody shoplift. So the cashier said, and that's what I call him, cashier said, "Hi, welcome to Target." That's not what it said, but it would have been funny because don't we love her so much? Bridesmaids. And I can't think of her name, because you know why? Because it's all about Rachel Dretch for me with Saturday Night Live comedic women. That's what I call them, comedic women, not cashiers, but Rachel Dretch. And it's not Kirsten Dunst, but it's a name that's kind of like that. Kirsten Dunst has her funny moments. She's done I don't know. I would never go through the entire Kirsten Dunst movie library. I know you've got your early Spider-Man movies with the Sam Raimi. And then isn't there one that's really odd called Melodramatica or Melanomica or something? Oh, she's an Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Kristen Wiig. I was going to get there eventually. Thank you for going there with me as I went to get there. And I got there, thankfully. But Gavin Newsom, he's like, okay, why are you just letting people go? And the lady said, oh, it's because of the governor. And he said, no, it's not. I'm the governor. I didn't say that was... We have strict laws. We're like the 10th state, the 10th strongest state with the strongest laws against shoplifting. And she's like, oh, okay. Can I get a picture? I'm basically paraphrasing, but that is what happened. So how on earth did we get here in California? Is it because we got Democrat leadership? Is it because we don't want to prosecute? Oh, it's because there was a proposition a while back that why do we have to throw everybody in jail? Let's just throw the really bad people we'll throw in jail. The other ones that shoplift now and then, I mean, everybody needs something. Well, now shopping centers, stores are getting shut down in major cities. Well, our majorest city, San Francisco. In California, you've got LA, San Francisco. Those are your top two. Then I think there's San Diego, San Jose, Sacramento, maybe. Oakland's in there, of course. And then the other Southern California places that are of any kind of note. And the point is that Gavin Newsom even knows about the retail return or retail. That's just flat out retail theft. But there's also retail return fraud. And I'll tell you, my lovely lady friend is wonderful.
I got through that. I got into it.
I was working for Rob Black this morning, and I got this news story actually from Rob. I produce his podcast. You can hear him on the radio, AM 1220 KDOW, weekday mornings in the Bay Area at 8 a.m. And he is also on the TV station Kron. He is on their news show in the 9 o'clock hour. Very informative, guys. We go outside a Café Anyway, where we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast. Somewhere in Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth, in Ameritopica. And here's an Ameritopica for you.
Anyway.
And that is, as retailers tried to win shoppers and boost sales in recent years. Oh, Rob asked me, because we were talking about my lovely lady friend. And he said, when are you going to make an honest woman out of her? Gosh, that is such a 1920s phrase. That question, that saying is like 100 years old, Rob. But I said, oh, she's not honest now? You mean she's been lying to me the whole time? Magnification. And he said, well, she's a therapist. But boom. So I don't know what that means either. Sorry, therapists out there. But that's a little humor that we get behind the scenes in the radio world. But he says that as retailers tried to win shoppers and boost sales in recent years, they made their online return policies more lenient than ever. And bringing that back around to my lovely lady friend, it seems like she's constantly returning things, but mostly the online stuff she gets. In some cases, shoppers can send back different items than the ones they bought, return stolen items, or claim a purchase that never got delivered when it really did. My lovely lady friend doesn't do any of that, but there are things she gets and she's like, this is too small.
You know, there's a real scary holiday coming up.
This is too big. Notice I put that in there too. This color is awful, or whatever. It looked completely different on the website. Retailers estimate about 13% of returns were fraudulent last year. That amounts to $101 billion. The share of returns expected to be fraudulent during the peak holiday season was even higher. At 16%, that's $24.5 billion worth. Fraud is number one in the concern for retailers, and it's not even close to number two. It's way out ahead. It's a concern, a big concern, and processing an online return is already a costly
Mike
proposition.
is on it, man.
Man go where no man has gone before.
We love it, Mike.
Take the value of the order that you ordered. Let's say that shirt. That nice shirt. Oh, I thought it looked so nice. Then I got it, and it makes me look fat.
People get stuck on stupid. You know what I mean?
Okay. It's too tight. It's too tight around my belly. That's one of my complaints. Well, get rid of your belly, Mike. Well, I'm working on it. So, take that order, take 20% off of what you paid for it, and that is the amount that the company has to pay to process it when you return it. More than half of consumers confess to wardrobing, which is ordering 3 sweaters and keeping just one. Wardrobing. Yeah, that's happening big time. And I think that is underreported. It says 56% of consumers. That is much too low. It's got to be 96. 1 in 4 consumers said they bought an item with the intent to return it after use. Ooh. And some retailers use artificial intelligence to personalize their return policies, which could vary for each individual. That's interesting. Maybe it can detect if you were a chronic user, pathological returner versus you being an honest returner. Are you an honest person? Are you just being honest? Maybe that's what it is. Home prices began to cool in November.
Welsh on the world. Fabagoo, things to do.
From October to November, they cooled. But nationally, if you look at November last year to November the previous year, so look between the 2 years, November 2023, we were actually up nationally about 5%. San Francisco had some of the largest monthly price declines. So did Seattle. Get this, though. San Diego had an 8% increase.
You will travel into the incredible
And there
universe.
are 6 new all-time highs in November for house prices. And they were in the cities of Miami, Tampa, so that's 2 in Florida, Atlanta, Charlotte, so there's 2 in the South, New York, and Cleveland. Okay, I know that's not the most riveting stuff, but it is there. Home prices. At some point, everybody's thinking about buying a house or renting a house, or someday I will live in a house, or I sold a house, I wish I could have gotten more, or I bought a house, I wish I could have paid less, etc. Gray divorce rates are exploding. The divorce rate has doubled since 1990 for Americans over 55. Doubled. And I am over 55. Wait, am I? Yeah, I'm 55. Gosh. I got a while yet till I'm 56, so I should enjoy it. I got almost a year. Less than a year now, but yeah. For couples over 65, the rate has tripled.
Cassette copy.
So you hit 65, are you going to get divorced? To me, it's amazing people that have been married for 50 years. Of course, I mean, that's an understatement, but still, how on earth that mean? I think of who have I known for 50 years? Well, really nobody, because my parents are gone. And yeah, it's, well, I guess I knew them till they passed. My mom was, I knew my mom in my 50s. Unfortunately, I didn't know my dad, but yeah. So it's interesting of a couple that have been together that long, which makes me think of Taylor Swift, because why not? Everything else is making us think of Taylor Swift these days. I mean, the biggest news story, I listen to a lot of news when I'm driving on my commute, which is sometimes 40, sometimes an hour, sometimes 40 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes. But when I'm in the car, I'll listen to news podcasts. Mike, which one do you suggest? I'll suggest it, and as soon as I do it, I'm going to listen to the next one and go, oh, they covered that story? That's ridiculous. But it is true that most of the news outlets, the national news outlets, were talking about how Taylor Swift was taken off X. Any searches for Taylor Swift on X were banned because of some nasty photos created by AI that got onto X somehow. So X decided to X it all out.
When you are a man, sometimes you wear stretchy pants.
And that makes me think of back when Madonna was a news story.
This show is clean.
Madonna's got a new book she's coming out with. It's a coffee table book, but she's naked in it.
Pretty much.
Ooh, how controversial. And then she got on SNL. She was on Saturday Night Live and Wayne's World, and they were joking about the video. Justify My Love, that video, and all the controversy with that. And I think she had an album called Controversy. I forget. But yeah, that was a big... That there are these stars. I will tell you from the years that I've lived, it's not sustainable. And I think Taylor Swift is smart enough to know it's true. And I heard some local DJs talking this morning when I was driving to work and stuck in traffic, saying how Taylor is enjoying herself. And now she's met this guy, this football player. Now this football player all of a sudden is playing on one of the teams, playing in the Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl is probably going to be showing her at least a zillion times during the Super Bowl. The people broadcasting it, the camera's going to be on her, as it is apparently every game that I don't watch sports, but apparently she's always on. Oh, there's a saturation point that's going to happen.
This is Mike's Podcast Picnic.
And yes, it seems that more often than not, men are the antagonists of Taylor.
Addenda with Keva.
But if you will just take my hand and walk with me for a moment, and may I show you a couple things here in the Taylor Swift Museum. Over there, that's a guy that she was dating, and that looked really serious. And he was British, and I think she was living in England, and wrote some songs with him. And that looked really, really serious. And she was going down that road that Katy Perry went walking down with Orlando Bloom and Russell Brand. Although the Russell Brand thing didn't work. Oh, gosh, it didn't work. And now Russell Brand's got his own problems of past relationships and picadillos and things that went awry. But now look at Taylor. And she has dated some interesting guys. A lot of them I don't know. A lot of them, you could probably quote to me oh yeah, she dated this guy, that guy. Remember when she dated so-and-so? All I keep thinking of is John Mayer, but that supposedly was a bad thing on his side, on his end, because he was older, much older than her. And she wrote a song about him called Dear John. That's all I remember. But there are other guys. Anyway, the point is that she's probably gotten to the point, and she's in her 30s, and I similarly was in that world in my 30s, where I'm like, you know what? I've done a lot of creative things. I've done this show on the radio. I was working at a country radio station, but doing a very creative show on it. I played some of it on the segment Let's Go Back with Matthews. You can Google that on my website. If you go to my mikesdailypodcast.com and type in Let's Go Back with Matthews in the search bar, you will hear some of those old shows. But yes, at some point you go, I want to get married. I think I found the right person. And I think that's going to happen for her.
MTV News. You hear it first.
Kathy's Corner.
Kathy's Corner.
She's drinking a lot of wine, a lot of booze, and she parties. Maybe she's getting out those final bits of sowing them oats.
Bands mutations.
Magnification.
Commit and dun, 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 dun. But is she really? Has she always been that big of a football fan? Or is this some new thing? Ooh, football's interesting. This guy's a hunk. He's got a beard. He's cute. I'm going to try this for a while. Until I get bored with it like I got bored with the English guy. I don't know. Maybe this is the one. But isn't that true for all of us? We walk down a road, maybe this is new. This is something different. And this I think this could last. It hasn't been that long for those two, so we shall see. At any rate, I'm talking way too much now. I've devoted too much of my show to Taylor Swift, but it is interesting how, and we do talk about culture and society and that kind of thing on this podcast, how she is so much in the fabric of even the news, the national news. But that's it. I'm done talking about her, and we'll just not talk about her anymore. But millennials, which she is not quite, is she? She's just sort of in there, like maybe towards the end of the millennials or the early beginning of the millennials or something in there. More of them are living with their parents. Nearly 16% of millennials in the U.S. lived with their parents in 2022. As younger people increasingly struggle with the high housing costs, back to houses and housing. And yeah, I think when I was what the millennials are, the age they are, I wasn't living with my mom in my 30s, but I remember early on, right out of college, I definitely had to live with her the first couple of years just to get situated in a way that I could afford to pay a rent check every month. And finally, Elon Musk revealed on X that the first human has received a brain implant from his company called Neuralink. We talked about that the day after that came out. So that's a thing that's maybe next year, semiconductor implants. Will we someday all know someone that has an implant? Maybe ourselves? That's fascinating. Outside of Café Anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth. And let's see, we talked to Shelley Schuhart and talked about her snow globes last time. And who's here now? Hi, Mark. It's Benita the Rodeo Queen. How y'all doing? I heard you had a guy from the movies on. Here's my horse.
It's a Disgruntled Fiddle Player. Tell you what.
What?
I don't trust anybody that makes movies. I don't trust anybody from Hollywood. And I don't trust Taylor Swift. Tell you what.
What? Why don't you trust Taylor Swift?
Because I'm a man.
Do you trust Greta Thunberg?
I don't think she has an R in her name.
Well, speaking of people with R's in her names, yeah, she's got 2 R's, but I put an R where it shouldn't be. Greta Thunberg's arrest at a protest outside an oil and gas conference in London last year followed her refusal to leave after police had given the Swedish climate activists a final warning, prosecutors said. Thunberg, who became a prominent campaigner worldwide after staging weekly protests in front of Swedish Parliament in 2018, is on trial with 4 others at London's Westminster Magistrates Court for an offence under the Public Order Act. All 5, who are aged 19 all the way up to 59, have pleaded not guilty. And they are accused of failing to comply with an order by senior police officers to move their protest to a designated area near the conference. She is 21, and she was arrested on October 17th while protesting outside a hotel where the Energy Intelligence Forum was hosting oil and gas industry leaders. Prosecutor Luke Statton said that after protesters blocked the entrances to the hotel, officers required them to move as they reasonably believed the protest, quote, may result in serious disruption to the life of the community.
Holding court with Lady Katie. Lady Katie. The Royal Trump Tweet Decree.
Greta, these days. And then she got into some trouble with what she had said, some pro-Palestinian things she said in her own country. They were admonishing her for that. Look who else is here.
Hello, Mike. I make delicious root beer. Have some right now.
Let me try. Wow. That is amazing. It is robust. It was so good. I can't believe it was root beer.
It's not. It's water. Oh,
But you said drink some of your delicious root beer.
drink it right now. Cut you.
I'm always apt to drinking water. I'm apt for that. But I think I'm going to be honest with you and tell you this podcast is over. If you would like to, but we'll do another one hopefully soon. If you would like to call in and maybe give your 2 cents, 5 cents, 25 cents, used to be able to make a call with one of those denominations at some point. Now we just pick up our smartphone and we call somebody. Oh no, we don't do that. We text them because we're too lazy to call them. But really, if we called them, the communication is much better. So much gets lost in texting. So just there's that, especially if you're using way too many emojis. So if you would like to call or text, here's the number.
Call Mike at the Café Anyway hotline. Area code 510-228-4640.
And with more ways to find out all things Mike's Daily Podcast, here is a frame.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com.
Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com.
See you tomorrow. Bye.